episode 425 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic is all about tonight's debut episode of AEW Saturday Collision on TNT. CM Punk has returned to All Elite Wrestling, joined forces with FTR to take on Samoa Joe and Bullet Club Gold. We saw a couple returns to AEW tonight, and a title changed hands on the very first episode of Collision. And this is a special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, wrestling fanatics. It's Saturday night, and you know what that means. Time to talk about the very first episode of AEW Saturday Collision on TNT tonight. Live from Chicago, Illinois at the United Center. And this very first episode of Collision was live on TNT. The commentators tonight, Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness. And for the main event, they would be joined by good old JR, Jim Ross. And first, I want to just say I like the theme song. They're using Elton John, Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting. And one thing I noticed, the red ropes are a nice touch. And I was thinking that was maybe now part of the reason why they went back to the all black ropes on Dynamite instead of the red, white, and blue ones they had for a few weeks to kind of separate the shows. Dynamite, black ropes, Collision, red ropes. And maybe nobody else really pays much attention to the ropes like I do, but I pay attention to the rope colors, the turnbuckle pads, things like that. And the commentary booth was at ringside tonight and not on the stage normally like on Dynamite. But if you remember at Double or Nothing a few weeks ago, the commentators were at ringside there too. I guessing maybe that's a way for AEW to separate or kind of make the shows a little different, kind of have the broadcast booths in different places. And let's get right into it. Collision at the United Center live from Chicago. And we start things off just like the second episode of AEW Rampage, the live Chicago crowd starts us off with loud CM Punk chants, and Cult of Personality hits. Of course, there is a huge pop in the United Center. I would say this was close to the first one when Punk made his AEW debut on that first episode of Rampage, but I think that one was kind of, I'm not sure if I would say better or more special, because yeah, the rumors were online and about him showing up, but it wasn't actually made official or announced or advertised ahead of time by AEW that Punk was going to be debuting. And even if he did show up, you didn't know when, if they were kicking the show off with him. And then the way Rampage started with the fans chanting CM Punk, and then he made his debut. And like I said, tonight on Collision, definitely a huge pop, but it wasn't quite the same as his debut, which I'm not too surprised. I didn't really expect it to be quite as big as the first pop, but still definitely a big reaction. Of course, as I'm sure everybody expected CM Punk to get in his hometown of Chicago. And one thing he repeats in this promo is, "Tell me when I'm telling lies." And he does take a shot at the Young Bucks and says he's the, I know I should have wrote this or put this in my notes, but he said he's the one real Bill in a company of counterfeit bucks. I might have said that wrong, but I know he did say counterfeit bucks. And he also said that, and I forgot to mention this, he did come out with a bag and his wrestling boots around his neck, and he said that he is still the AEW World Champion, and he is not giving the title up. So I'm guessing this could eventually lead to a feud between him and MJF to see who the real AEW World Champion is. But we will just have to wait and see. And he says he is not hanging up his boots until someone can fill them. And he talked about the fans and him having to apologize. And he said the only thing softer than you is the wrestlers that you like. And so I thought this was a pretty interesting opening promo from CM Punk to kick off the first episode of Collision. And we will have to wait and see if the Young Bucks respond to this at all. And he did, in a way, kind of address the brawl at All Out last year, and not really getting into it a whole lot, I don't think, but will definitely be interesting. We will have to wait and see what happens next for Punk and AEW, but that is definitely not the last of CM Punk for tonight. He will be in action in the main event in the trios match, teaming with the AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR to take on Samoa Joe and Bullet Club Gold, but I will get to that at the end of this recap. Collision continues. Our first match of the evening for the AEW TNT Championship. Wardlow defending against Luchasaurus. And we see some highlights of when Christian Cage and Luchasaurus took out Arn Anderson this past Wednesday night on Dynamite, leaving him bloody on the stairs. And good match here to start off the first episode of Collision. We even get a swanton bomb from Wardlow. Christian gets involved in this one, and then finally to finish these, Christian I think it was the headset. I know Kevin Kelly was saying that it was the actual camera, but it kind of looked like to me like it might have been like the headset, or maybe he actually had both, because when he hit him with it, it looked like the headset broke. He hit Wardlow, and that allowed Luchasaurus to get the win, defeating Wardlow at 10 minutes 45 seconds to become the new AEW TNT champion. And Christian Cage celebrates with Luchasaurus just like he won the title. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rematch for the title between these two. So I think that this feud is gonna keep going at least for a little bit longer anyway. And I'm sure they're gonna have Arn Anderson come back and get involved again somehow. And maybe we could see a tag match. Wardlow maybe teaming with Brock Anderson to take on Luchasaurus and Christian Cage. And next up, backstage, Lexi Nair is with QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs. And they discuss how Powerhouse Hobbs is going to be the face of Collision and the face of TNT. In our next match on Collision, we have Honoring the House of Black being accompanied by Julia Hart, 1/3 of the AEW Trios champions, Buddy Matthews taking on the returning Andrade El Idolo. Great match here between these two. The crowd was definitely hot for this one. And I wouldn't say I thought this was going to be a bad match at all. Definitely not. But this one did surprise me. Was better than I expected it to be. Great match, in my opinion, with these two. Andrade gets the win, defeating Buddy Matthews with the figure 8. As Buddy Matthews taps out at 12 minutes 59 seconds. And after the match, Andrade goes to help Buddy Matthews up. Or, I apologize. There is something I left out. At one point, actually, there's a shoulder injury to Andrade and a knee injury to Buddy Matthews. Doc Sampson and the other doctor get in the ring. And while that is going on, we go to picture-in-picture for a break. And now back to the post-match. Sorry about that. And Andrade goes to show some sportsmanship, helping Buddy Matthews up to his feet. But Matthews wants no part of it. But Andrade still offers the handshake. And then the lights go out. And then when they come back on, Andrade still has his hand out. And then behind him is Malachi Black and Brody King. And Brody King attacks Andrade, and the House of Black leaves him laying. I would not be surprised if, now, I don't know if it will be Rush or Listico, but I wouldn't be surprised if Andrade gets a couple partners maybe, and challenges the House of Black to a match for the Trios Championships. And next up, we get a video package, and I'm excited to see this. The return of Scorpio Sky is coming soon. One half of the first ever AEW World Tag Team Champions. And I'm definitely looking forward to see the return of Scorpio Sky. It's been quite a while since we have seen him on any AEW television. Definitely a very talented wrestler is Scorpio Sky. And next, we have Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling in the ring. And he does something similar to what he did this past Thursday night on Ring of Honor on Honor Club, where he says he's stopping the show and they're going to have some exercising workout. But this is interrupted by the returning Miro to AEW. Miro, Tony Nese. Miro dominates most of the match, of course. Smart Mark Sterling tries to get on the apron, get involved in the match, but Miro knocks him off the apron to the floor, and Miro gets the win, defeating Tony Nese with the game over. 3 minutes, 22 seconds for this one. For what it was, the return of Miro, his first match back in AEW, I thought this was very good because, of course, you wanted him to look strong, look dominant, and get a win in his first match back. His first match in AEW of 2023. And he is victorious. Definitely interesting to see what will be next for Miro in AEW. And now our women's tag team match of the night. The Outcasts, Ruby Soho, and the AEW Women's Champion Toni Storm take on the NJPW Strong Women's Champion Willow Nightingale and Chicago's own, in her hometown, Sky Blue. Her mom, once again, is in the front row. Sky Blue, of course, is over. She looks very happy to be there. Her hometown in the United Center. And these four have a very good match. What I thought, in my opinion anyway. And Sky Blue gets the win in her hometown when Toni Storm goes to use the spray paint, spray it in the face of Sky Blue, but Willow stops her and she ends up spraying it in the face of Ruby Soho by mistake, and Sky Blue pins Soho to get the win for her team in her hometown. Unlike WWE, who a lot of times likes to beat wrestlers, have them lose in their hometown, they let Sky Blue get the win, have a feel-good moment here in Chicago. And next up we have a video package, and we find out that Absolute Ricky Starks will be competing in the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament this year. And the main event of the very first episode of AEW Saturday Collision. Bullet Club Gold, Switchblade Jay White, and Juice Robinson, and the Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe take on the team of the AEW World Tag Team Champions Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, FTR, and in his first match since September of 2022, CM Punk in this main event trios match, or I should say, as they are being called, CMFTR. And this one gets quite a bit of time. Very good match, I thought. I thought these six worked very well in this main event. Punk, I don't think, really showed too much ring rust. I thought that he had a pretty good match anyway. And Joe and Bullet Club Gold worked good together. Punk and FTR. And the finish, though, sees Samoa Joe have the Coquina clutch locked in on CM Punk, and then on each side of the ring, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler try to get into the ring to make the save, but Jay White, Juice Robinson stop them, but then eventually they do break free to get into the ring, and Dax Harwood with a shoulder tackle to the back of Samoa Joe to break up the Coquina clutch. And it is CM Punk pinning Juice Robinson to score the win for CMFTR. 25 minutes, 36 seconds. And that was the first main event of AEW Saturday Collision. I thought this was a very entertaining match. Good way to start off the first episode with this main event. Of course, no surprise, we saw CM Punk to get the win there in Chicago. And of course, that got a big reaction from the crowd. Punk and FTR celebrate as Collision goes off the air. And that was the very first episode, the debut of AEW Saturday Collision on TNT tonight. And I thought it was a very good episode, a lot of good wrestling on this show tonight. I wouldn't say anything really major happened, but it was still a very good episode. And you did have the Punk promo at the beginning. I wouldn't say it was really that controversial or anything, though he did take that one shot at the Young Bucks and a couple others at some other people. And the matches on this show tonight were very good, especially Buddy Matthews and Andrade El Idolo. And the women's match, very good as well. Sky Blue, very impressive. So, if it keeps up like this, has good, solid wrestling action, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to Collision every week. And the commentary, I want to talk about Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness. I thought did a very good job. It's good to hear them back together again. Of course, they did a lot of commentary together in Ring of Honor, like I talked about this morning on GMWF, around the time when Sinclair first purchased the promotion. And then another thing I want to talk about with the commentary tonight, poor Jim Ross. He posted on his Instagram page this morning that he had a bad fall, got a black eye, looked pretty nasty if you saw the picture. And also his voice, he was a little hoarse tonight. So hopefully send get well wishes to Jim Ross. But like I said, overall tonight, I thought Collision, this first episode, was definitely very good. I haven't seen any reviews or any other opinions online just yet, but that's just what I thought about this first episode. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to go live, since this was a special night. And like I've been doing for the pay-per-views, premium live events, other big shows, I've been going live after them with 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And I don't know if every Saturday night I'm going to be going live after Collision or not. But we'll just have to wait and see. And like they say, call it in the ring and see every week whether if I feel like going live right after or recording an episode a little bit after it goes off the air. We'll just have to wait and see. So stay tuned right here to 360 Wrestling Podcast. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic right after the debut of AEW Saturday Collision. Definitely looking forward to next week's episode. And next weekend, not only do we have the second episode of Collision, but then a week from tomorrow, next Sunday, is All Elite Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door on pay-per-view. So that's definitely going to be an exciting pro wrestling weekend we got coming up next week. And that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section right here on Spreaker or whichever website, podcast app, podcast catcher, podcast, whatever they're called these days. Whichever one you listen to on, if they have a comment section, leave them there. And also like and share and subscribe and leave a review. All that good podcast stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow morning for the Sunday morning episode of GMWF. So be there, and thank you everyone once again for tuning in tonight. But until next time, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.